The way this is going to work is that we will have a moment for each candidate, 3 minutes, starting with that one, Christine, and Nick, and Jessie, and then you were the next number, you were the next, and you were the next. So introduce themselves. They'll have 3 minutes to do that, tell you why they're running for office, anything they want to say about themselves. And then we will go on to the questions. I'd also like to ask that you hold your applause, cheering, comments, and etc. If you want to do it now and say thank you for being here, you can do that. Yay! We love it. But then, no more until it's over. We have 6 prepared questions, and we'll figure that it would take, if they take the full amount of time, maybe 75 to 85 minutes to go through them. If there is time, we will take questions from the audience and filter them through the moderators so that they don't get loaded up, just as a protection for the candidates. And the only other thing is if a candidate directs a particular comment to one of their opponents, the opponent then will have 30 seconds to respond to that as a rebuttal. If the candidate who posed the original comment wants to re-comment or to respond to the rebuttal, they have to take time out of their next question to do so. And the candidates will be allowed up to 2 minutes for the questions. They will get closing comments, 3 minutes after all the questions have run their course.
Thank you, and thank you guys for coming, and thank you to Darling Wife for time cues. I appreciate that. My name is Christine Johnson. I am running for House District 14, and I am married to Justin, and that's my, I'm going to be partial, sweet little 6-month-old little guy back there, Ethan. I am originally from Butte. I moved to Frenchtown almost 10 years ago. I have a bachelor's degree in professional and technical communications from Montana Tech and a bachelor's degree in broadcast journalism from the University of Montana. I worked for an international excavator attachment manufacturer for several years here in Missoula, where I was their marketing director. So I was able to work in the manufacturing industry. And then I moved over to the timber industry, which I have been working in for about 10 years. I did a lot of public relations for them and a lot of government relations for them as well. I worked with the Fuels for Schools program for years, which provides opportunities for schools and hospitals to use biomass renewable energy. So I am excited that a lot of the House District 14 area have a lot of Fuels for Schools projects in them. I also worked with the Department of Environmental Quality in the last legislative session to provide a Senate Bill 47 that helped separate wood chippers and wood grinders and wood product equipment from asphalt and rock crushing equipment, which are a couple of completely different industries, and they are being judged the same. So that passed last session, and I was influential, I like to think, in that. I also work with the Missoula County Air Quality Board, and I am trying to help them realize the importance of renewable and biomass energy and not detrimental with all the new technology in the burning devices. So I continue to work with that, although sometimes it's a little difficult, but progress is good. I now own my own business, which is Clover Creative Consulting. I work with new businesses and existing businesses to help them market their companies, grow their companies. I help them find financial solutions, whether that be through grants or state agencies or federal agencies. I also recently started another business called Edge, which is experts delivering global education. And the co-owner and I are working to put together educational opportunities to take to the Bakken oil field for safety and health trainings that they need. Wow, 3 minutes goes by fast. I enjoy hunting and fishing and snowmobiling and running, and I am the chair of the Missoula County Resource Advisory Council. I am the president of River Run Ranches. I am the past president of Missoula Business Women's Network, past president of MBN Women's Symposium, and former chair of the local Wood is Good committee. Thank you.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for braving the storms and weather. I know we had a good bit of snow in Superior on the way down to here for coming out. I'd like to thank folks for moderating and putting this together, and the Frenchtown High School for having a great forum today. I think that we might even have a better forum than the governors had in Missoula earlier today. I'm not quite sure. My name is Nichols, Schwaderer. I'm a 5th generation Montanan, and I've been living in Superior since I was 3 years old. My family came to America in 1910. They were German Russians looking here for, a slice of freedom and to start their own life. It wasn't easy. Failed homesteaders moved to the West to work in whatever industry they could. A lot of it was rail, a lot of it was agriculture. I graduated, I'm probably one of the younger folks here on stage. I graduated from St. Regis High School in 2006, and I've worked in the fields first of community journalism. I was a pro bono writer for the Clark-Fork Chronicle for 4 years, and then I worked for them for 4 more years. And to save up money, I also worked at Tricon Timber in St. Regis until the 2008 housing crisis layoff. And then I worked in Medford, Wisconsin, making tombstone pizzas, if you're familiar with the frozen pizza, for a better part of a year to save up money. Many thousands of pizzas were made during that time. And as for policy-related work, I worked for the Montana Policy Institute from 2008 to 2012 on state issues. And I also worked for the Freedom Foundation in their constitutional department. And I look forward to having a good debate tonight, and I appreciate y'all for coming out here. Thanks.
Hi everyone, and thanks for coming. My name is Jessie Nichols, and I'm an independent candidate for House District 14. I live in Alberton. I'm married. I have 2 kids, one of whom is here tonight. My son Miles is 14 and in the 8th grade at Alberton Public School. My daughter is just turned 5 and is starting kindergarten, which she loves PE, Mom. So it's great. I like my school, I like my job. I work at the feed store in Alberton, and I feel very fortunate to have one of the 8 or 9 jobs there. And I am running because I am extremely frustrated with bipartisanship. I think that we can do much better than what we've been doing, and if the last legislative session is any indication of what we have coming for us, I think I'm going to be nervous. I think I think that what's the word I'm looking for? I think that the 2 parties fight with each other too often, and they don't cooperate. And that's why I don't want to be a part of those parties. But I do want to cooperate. I want to come to the table as a mature adult and have adult conversations about the very real problems that our district faces. Not only just our district, but our state as a whole and our nation. We need to have civilized, constructive conversation. And I'm not sure if that's possible with just 2 parties. I have a bachelor's degree in sociology and anthropology and a minor in elementary education. While in college, I waited tables, I worked on an organic vegetable farm, and I taught snowboarding to pay my bills. I also have a hefty student loan bill. While in college, I volunteered, and I volunteered on a domestic violence and sexual assault hotline, which was very challenging work. So I do volunteer my time, and I still volunteer my time. As an active community member, I'm on the school board in Alberton, and I take that job very seriously. It takes constructive conversation to get through your meetings, and to do what's best for the students. I'm running as an independent candidate free of party affiliation because I don't think that the parties are where to go. I've been told by high-ups in both parties that I don't have a chance, and I would just like to prove them wrong. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Fielder. I'm running for State Senate, District 7, to represent Sanders County and Mineral County and a little bit of western Missoula County. I live on 23 acres of forest land with my husband Paul. He's a wildlife biologist. He's here tonight, back in the corner there. And we have 2 children that are grown now. Our son is a police officer. Our daughter has a teaching certificate, and we've got 5 beautiful little grandkids. We manage our land for optimal timber production and forest health and also wildlife habitat. That's something that we really enjoy doing and seeing the fruits of our labor work for the benefit of our environment. We really enjoy a pretty simple life, up until the time I filed for office anyway. We live close to the land, we like to hunt, we like to get our own firewood, we grow our own garden, and we just really enjoy the peaceful, simple life of rural living. As far as some of my background, I've always been a pretty hard worker and a quick learner. Through high school and college, at least most of it, I was a straight A student. And I did pay my own way through college, 5 years of it. I worked for small government and regional governments for about 7 years when I got out of college. I was in public parks administration and also a special project coordinator for public works projects, roads, sidewalks, trails, solid waste, whatever they wanted to assign me to. And then I started my own business. And for the last 20 years, I've owned my own business. And in that business, I design and I plan and I project manage projects of different kinds. I've done a lot of public projects, and I've also done a lot of private construction projects for residences and commercial projects. I really enjoy history. That's one of the things that I do with my free time when I have free time, is I like to study history. I'm president of the Sanders County Historical Society. I really love our country's history and the early exploration, the fur trade, the early settlement, the way this nation was made and the way it was settled and what it took to get us to where we are today is something that's deeply rooted in me. Also, I volunteer for my town quite a bit and my community. I've done quite a few projects on wildlife conservation work, helping wildlife habitat, as well as projects right in town. I was the chairman of a little playground project on our main street to help boost our economy and give local families a place to play safely in a city park that pretty much had nothing in it. And I have volunteered with our beautification days for the last 9 years on community cleanup projects. I decided to run for office because I see my country slipping away, and I couldn't wait for someone else to fix it anymore. We have to do everything we can wherever we're at to help get things turned around and get us back on the right track. That's why I decided to run for Senate. Thank you.
My name is John Marshall. I reside just outside of Hot Springs. When I first drove into the state in the spring of 1973, I thought I was seeing things when I drove by a speed limit sign, and it said reasonable and prudent. And I kept on driving down the road, and I saw one after another after another. That's how I think government in the state should be run, reasonable and prudent. And I'm running as a Libertarian candidate for the Senate District 7, because I see the antics of the Republican and Democratic Party as being far from anything as far as reasonable and prudent, and how they do not get along with one another anymore, and how they show us that the way they're running the government these days is not what I would consider reasonable and prudent. From that time I moved to the state, in union, non-union governmental jobs, I've been a laborer, carpenter, plumber, welder, packer, trail boss, sawyer, miner, you name it, I've done it. Right now I run a business. I've had for the last 27 years. I do business all over the world, in every continent on the world that Boeing and Microsoft and Procter & Gamble do. My business language is German. My business education is in German. And from having all the experience and worked all the various jobs I've worked over the years, I've come to realize that people are people, regardless of their chosen occupation, life, or their status. And that you realize that if you really want to be able to enjoy life, you learn to get along with everybody, no matter what their political views are, no matter what their political ideologies are. And right now I'm running as a third-party candidate simply because of the fact that in Sanders County in 2010, the voters of the county voted in the majority to say no more to partisan elections on the county level. Sanders County residents are sick and tired of partisan politics, and I couldn't agree more. I think the two-party system is doing more to cripple and crush American democracy than it is help it to blossom and continue further. Why am I running for office? One of the reasons being is that I think that I've heard from many, many people where I live in and around the district is that this part of the state is tired of being forgotten by Helena. Tired of being forgotten that this area needs help in rebuilding the economy from the ground up, step by step by step. And not just in the lines of natural resource extraction, but also in manufacturing jobs, in service jobs, education, etc. And as I've spoken before, the prime way to rebuild the economy from the ground up is education. Education, education, and more education. Because the more people have the opportunity to educate themselves, the more they have the opportunity to be able to raise their lot in life, perhaps get a better paying job, or do something differently than the job that they already have. So basically, that's, I guess that's about all I need to know about me, other than also, too, the reason I'm running is because, like a lot of people, I'm full of hot air. And if you want to run for politics, you better be full of hot air. And I can admit that I am that way, and I'm opinionated, even though a lot of people that run into politics won't admit that, but I can say that I am, and that's another reason I'm running, because if you're full of hot air, what better place to be than in politics and in government? Thank you.
I am Mark Sheets and running for Senate District 7, and I would like to thank everybody for coming here and also for people putting this on. On here, I've lived in Montana for 54 years. I grew up in Seeley Lake, graduated from high school there, went to college at Northern Montana College in Havre, which is now MSU Northern, with a degree in secondary education and an area science major. I've taught high school science in Box Elder, Rosebud, Peaburg, and also in Thompson Falls. In the summer times, I worked for the Forest Service until children came along. And in the Forest Service, I was a lookout, worked on saw crew, did prescribed burning, firefighter, also was an engine foreman, and fire guard. Along with this, I've also helped my cousin a couple different times with his logging operation, primarily in the wintertime when they needed help, shoveling stumps, pulling cables, setting chokers, doing that to help him out to be able to meet his timelines. Also, I've been on Thompson Falls City Council for 10 years, had 2 different stints with that, and also Sanders County Resource Advisory Committee for 4 years, and the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks Citizen Advisory Committee for 4 years. The reason I decided to run primarily is the bickering and fighting and the ideology that was happening in Helena the last couple of legislative sessions. Trying to turn over citizen-passed voter initiatives also triggered me to be able to do this. I was tired of the polarization and figured that I would go ahead and run, and about the only thing I can promise is to try to work with everybody there. Again, as a teacher on city council, we're working for the betterment of everybody, not just for ourselves or a very specific viewpoint on that. And by also the work on the councils, I've had to work with a wide variety of people. The people that don't believe the same as I do not have the same understanding of issues that I do. And I think it's very important to listen to these people and try to work with them, because there's a point that there's a compromise and consensus can be reached if we listen to each other, talk to each other, and have respect for each other for doing that. With it, some of the biggest problems I think I will run into in the legislature, and on that will be pressure from the party itself to vote their way on it. I don't always agree with that, and I think I've taken some votes on city council that I've taken some big bites out of my butt because of that, but I can, take the heat. Also, lobbyists are going to be pressuring you continuously to vote their way. Another thing that's going to be, of course, a problem is going in as a junior senator. You won't be taken as seriously as some of the folks that have been there for a long time. So it'll be a very big challenge to be able to go in there, work with folks, and try to get something done, but we've got to start somewhere to do this. Thank you.
So the first question, what do you see as the top issues facing our state and your district in particular? Which of those would be your top priorities if elected? And when it comes to getting things done in the legislature, what do you anticipate will be the biggest problems you encounter?
Thank you. So for me, my top 5 issues that I think, especially for our district, are jobs, especially the loss of jobs in the timber industry, the economy, a qualified, skilled workforce in this district, the stringent regulations that keep occurring and more keep coming, and increasing the tourism industry and hopefully getting more people to come to Western Montana. Right now, I think one of the biggest challenges that we're going to have to help grow the economy in Western Montana is the fact that Eastern Montana is doing so well with all of the oil and coal that's going on over there right now. And I think the timber industry has been hurting for a long time, and I think that needs to, be refreshed in people's memory. The timber industry isn't the industry of the 1800s and the early 1900s where loggers were clear cutting. Loggers now are very responsible. They know that their job security rests on going in and thinning and making sure it's a healthy forest. And most loggers that I know also understand that this is where their elk are, this is where their deer are that they're going to go and try and find during hunting season, or the trails that they snowmobile on. So I think education is a huge obstacle that needs to be overcome, and the education of teaching the rest of the state of Montana that they're not all bad and that good things can come from those jobs. And the skilled workforce that has left Montana to go to North Dakota is a huge hit. I know for some of the logging companies and timber industry companies in Western Montana, 50 or 100 employees from a couple companies have gone to North Dakota. So I think finding ways to keep them here is super important.
I think the top issues facing the state and our district and our community probably come down to a staggering economy and rampant unemployment, first of all. If we look at throughout, say, 2006, for the 4 years prior and leading up, unemployment had been slowly decreasing, and it was holding at 3.1% throughout most of that year. Today, Montanans are faced with a 6.3% unemployment, which is even higher than the mass layoffs we had in 2008. The only difference is now we have 23,000 new Montanans since then who are willing and able and capable and committed and wanting to work, but we have less jobs today than December 2006. So we have an increase in unemployment. I think another huge issue that we're still recovering from with the 2008 housing crash, a lot of folks who worked their whole life, because we have a lot of retirement age folks in this district, a lot of them who worked their whole life to get a piece of dirt in a house, saw their greatest asset, their greatest wealth come tumbling down. But as many of you know, the assessments that came before that, they're getting taxed on wealth they don't even have. And that's a big issue. If you look at the map of Montana, House District 14 is amongst the most overtaxed with over-assessed property valuations. Eastern Montana is not having the issue. It is a House District 14 problem. My top priorities for addressing this is keeping that in mind when we go over to Helena. We got to knock down inhibitions to get businesses, the inhibitions to business and the regulations and certain issues so that people can take the risk and hire the people and get working and drive those property values, back to where they're actually matching what they're getting taxed on. Getting more people employed and decreasing unemployment and dealing with these issues. Now, there's a question on there, what's the biggest problem do I think I'm going to face up in Helena? I'll be honest with you right now. It's the mob of folks, the special interest groups and lobbyists that come there and try and turn you the other way. And I'll quote a Democrat on this one. A lobbyist will only show you one side of the coin. It's up to you to turn it over. And I will. Thanks.
Well, I think the biggest problems that we have in Western Montana are the economy. And I think I have some neat ideas to try and help that. For one, we tend to ship out a lot of our raw materials. They tend to just go. They're off to someplace else. There is pellet mills, there's that sort of thing for lumber. But a lot of times we just ship off our raw materials without adding value to them. From cattle to lumber, you name it. And I think we need infrastructure that will help add value to those things. From the food we grow, to the minerals we mine, to the lumber that we take out of the forest. We need to find a way, and a lot of this is just keeping the government out of the way to add value to what we've got, and then put it in the marketplace. So that's one idea. I also think that we can improve our economies through small changes within our communities. There's small steps we can take such as in Kalispell, their school district, and some of you may have heard this before, but their school district just figured out a way to buy all of their beef locally for their school. It actually saved their school district $500 and put $35,000 into their local economy. So small, practical steps are really what I'm advocating. I don't think we need to go crazy and just take out tons of our raw materials. I don't think we need to do that. I think we can take small, practical steps that will improve our economy if we can just keep government from overstepping its reach. Thanks.
Definitely my top priority is to work on improving our economy, to get the out of work back to work so they can take care of their own families, and we can reduce the number of people that are dependent on government, especially able-bodied people that are ready to work and willing to work that can't work. One of the biggest things we can do to help put people back to work is get back to the basics. And that means look at what has worked in the past. Timber has worked really well for this area in the past. According to the Kootenai National Forest staff, we have over 400 million board feet a year coming up on that forest, and we're only able to harvest just a very, very tiny bit of it. Clark Fork Valley, lower Clark Fork Valley where I live, used to have 12 mills, and now we're down to the last one. Why? Environmental regulations have shut it down. The pro-wilderness people want more wilderness and less roads and less timber production, and we've got to find a balance. We've got to find a balance that works. We don't need to destroy our environment. We can harvest those resources with today's technology in a very responsible way. We've got to get back to being able to do that. The other priority, and this is also a very high priority for me, is to protect our freedoms. It's pretty simple. We have a constitution. We need to follow it. The Bill of Rights protects our individual rights. It sets the rules for what government is not allowed to do to us. And government is ignoring that. We need leaders that will go to Helena and make sure that our government follows its own rules. And that's what I plan to do. It's very important to me that we have a government that's open and transparent and lets people be involved in it. It's our government. We have to be better supervisors, and we have to be involved in it, and we have to put leaders in there that will listen to us and allow us to be involved in it. And I think if we do that, we're going to be able to solve a lot of our problems. Thank you.
As far as the top issues facing the state, they are many and varied, and depending on who you talk to, you get all kinds of different opinions. So I think the best thing to do is to listen to everybody. The political acrimony that's going on now in Helena between Democrats and Republicans, if that continues and that doesn't get resolved, we're still going to have to deal with a lot of problems. Also, keeping people well informed and educated. Jennifer just made a statement about the problem with the lumber industry not being what it used to be in the past. Is because of environmental regulations. There could be no less true statement than that. The reality is the timber market is not going to come back the way it was 20 and 30 and 40 years ago, and that's based on global markets and economics. The fact is that timber in this region cannot compete with timber in other regions of the country and other regions of the world. It's as simple as that. This has nothing to do with environmental. It's nothing to do with government regulations. It's strictly to do with economics in the world market now, and what has changed in the last 30 or 40 years as far as business goes, be it timber, be it coal, be it manufacturing, be it whatever. And so number one, if you wish to be able to deal with things that are going on here to help, is to keep the public informed. Be transparent. Be realistic about what's going on, about what's happening, about the federal monies that are no longer going to be coming into the state coffers, because if the federal government looks to balance their own budget, that's going to reflect on every state. And then the reality of what has to happen in the state. What will happen and what will have to be cut back in the state level. What revenues will have to be raised to keep basic services going. And again, being very forthright and honest with the electorate about what is going on, not playing political games, not trying to hide behind the masquerade of perhaps moral issues that have been politicized to distract and divide people, but keeping everybody informed of what's going on so that the citizens can be the ones who can tell us, the employees, what to do and how they want it done. Thank you.
Major issues that I see affecting the state right now is education funding is one of them. Again, the schools have to have the money to be able to operate properly, to get the students educated. Also at the university level, to get these folks trained so that they're capable of finding good employment. Strains on our infrastructure, especially in eastern Montana, is taking place right now due to the oil boom and also to coal. So a lot of the interest is going to go to trying to take care of that, and it's going to be tough to be able to get some of that money to filter here to the western part of the state and help take care of some of the issues here. The Medicaid, opt-in or opt-out, that is going to be another very important issue, and it has to be very carefully looked at to make sure that the state does not get saddled with funded or unfunded liability down the road somewhere that could cause some real problems in the budget process. District and also statewide, of course, employment is very important, in which, you know, trying to find jobs, getting people trained up for jobs, getting small businesses going is tough to do. Our aging population, especially in western Montana. Sanders County, Mineral County, probably retirement income is the biggest source of revenue that's coming into those counties, and those folks need to be taken care of. They've worked all their lives for this. Aging Services is having trouble keeping up with it, and also along with that, health care has to be available for those folks, and also assisted living facilities are going to be something that's needed in the future, so this might be a way to expand business into that. The State Tribal Water Compact is another one that is going to come up and could be very contentious into the legislature on it, and with that they'll, you know, make or break and hopefully try to keep that out of the courts. And of course, resource development is very important on it, and thank you very much.
Jennifer felt she wanted to respond to the timber comment, so she has 30 seconds.
Yes, Mr. Marshall said that something like environmental regulations aren't getting in the way. Well, the district ranger disagrees. He says he can't cut one tree anymore without hardly getting sued. Also, Rivette Minerals has been trying to get a silver mine open for 20 years. They had to purchase 2,450 acres of private land to set aside for grizzly bear habitat as part of their operation. So there's all kinds of things, red tape, that are holding back our industries from being able to harvest resources responsibly. Thank you.
Western Montana has been growing rapidly, attracting pre-retirement baby boomers who appreciate our quality of life. This growth is placing a greater demand on law enforcement, our fire departments and emergency response personnel, our medical services, and a local government that is stretched to the limit. What, if anything, should we be doing today to prepare for this great tsunami?
Thank you. First off, that's completely true. As a resident of Mineral County, we're in the minority. You know, the 18 to 35 bracket is disappearing. You know, a lot of folks are leaving these communities to go find work. Eastern Montana was mentioned, North Dakota, Wyoming. I'm sure a lot of folks in here personally know somebody who's left to go work at these places to make an income at one point or the other. Currently in the 3 counties covered by House District 14, Missoula is looking at about a 50% smaller population growth rate in the state in the last few years, and Mineral County and Sanders County are hovering about, you know, give or take about 10-20 people, the same figures the last few years. But don't let this fool you. There still is growth, but within different sectors of the community. We have a lot of folks who are retired and a lot of folks who are about to be retired. And we have to confront these issues. How are we going to be able to take care of those folks? Because the law enforcement, the volunteer firefighters, the first responders, the medical services, and other services these communities provide is essential to the fabric of our communities, so we can have a safe and healthy existence in our beautiful country. I think to be able to provide these, you float the economy, you float the revenue, you're able to take care of these people. So drawing back to the first point, if we are able to drive business forward and able to knock down the regulations and create incentives and basically don't punish the entrepreneurs, I think we have a lot of opportunity. I-90's going through there. You know, the tourism's always there. That can also be a boost as we work towards that. St. Regis itself has put a lot of effort into that link up to Great Falls. I think through natural resources, startup businesses, manufacturing, and tourism, we can bring in the revenue to be able to meet these core obligations to take care of our communities. Thank you.
Well, the gray tsunami has actually already arrived. In Montana, starting today, starting starting now, 35 boomers will turn 65. And 35 boomers will turn 65 every day in Montana until about 2030 is what the U.S. Census Bureau estimates. That's pretty impressive. And yeah, we do need to make sure that we have all of the emergency services in place, that we have a well-equipped volunteer services. But we also have to make sure that we have community centers. Frenchtown doesn't have a community center. Alberton has a community center. We could certainly use some upgrades, but we need a place to gather people to harness their energy. Turning 65 now doesn't mean that you're ready to give up and sit at home and watch TV. Turning 65 means that you're ready to do new things and be a part of your new community if this is where you have chosen to live. We need to try and harness the wisdom and the creativity and the energy of this group of people, because they have a lot of answers and they have a lot of insight into what has worked and what hasn't worked. And so I think it can be an asset, but we have to make sure that we have all the services in place to take care of those who need it. Thank you.
I don't see the gray tsunami as a threat. These people that are coming here that are of retirement age or nearly retirement age are bringing their wealth with them. They're paying property taxes, investing in real estate, they're helping to fund our schools, and they're not asking anything in return. Most of these retirement age people don't have children in the schools, so I see them actually bringing quite a bit of resource to our area, and I think it's really important that our communities be prepared to embrace new people coming into the area. We get a lot of things done in little towns with volunteers. And I think that our organizations like the libraries and the museums, even the schools, the parks, there's a lot of room for volunteer help, and it's really important to be ready to include these people and find the interests that they're interested in and let them be part of it, whether it's ambulance, sheriff's safety committee, fire department. We can get a lot done with people's energy without asking the government to do it all for us. And we do that in Thompson Falls. That's how we get an awful lot of things done. The world goes round because of volunteers up there. We get it done without asking for the taxpayers to do it for us. So I think that it's really important to be ready for that and to have leaders in place that will encourage that and bring that wealth of experience, the knowledge into our communities and integrate it so that we can grow our communities and strengthen our communities at the same time.
Every human being has needs and desires. And when more and more human beings come into an area, naturally, of course, there's an increase of needs and desires because there's more people. So, more needs and desires now come into this area. Okay, and with that, those needs and desires need to be taken care of and serviced. Ambulance, law enforcement, fire. Everybody wants to be taken care of, but we all have needs, we all have desires. Well, eventually when you get enough people, there's the gray tsunamis it's called, what happens? Then there is pressure to increase those services to support those needs that those people want that they come to an area. Well, okay, that's the expansion of government. How does government expand? Because more and more people are in an area and they want it to expand out of the very basic needs and desires that they have, which every human being has. Okay, so now government starts to expand as a natural reaction to more people coming to the area. Government itself is not trying to expand. By the nature of people and what they want is starting to happen. So what happens? More services are not necessary. Well, okay, there needs to be funds to pay for that. Where do those funds come from? Those are revenues that have to be generated. So then the discussion starts, well, where does that increase in revenue come from? Who pays for that? Taxes, okay, but then who pays for the taxes? Is it the people who already are here? Is it paid for by the people who are just moving here? This is where the discussion starts in this. This is where the discussion, again, in realizing that more people coming into an area, okay, increases the needs and the desires of the area because human beings are human beings. Okay, there's nothing evil or wrong about this. And then we have to all sit down and decide, okay, how are we going to go about this? And so in this particular case, again, it's up to all of us to decide, how do we want to do this? Okay, we know services are going to increase. That means we know taxes are going to increase or revenue is going to need to pay for this. How are we going to go about this? This is a decision for all of us to be a part of, not just those who are in Helena trying to make the decision for us. Thank you.
Well, I'm part of the senior tsunami that's coming on. With this, I went to every senior citizen center in the district, some of them 2 times, some of them 3 times. And what I've found there in a lot of them is there's a tremendous discrepancy in the incomes and abilities of people that are in these senior centers. Some are doing very well and go there primarily for the socialism or the socialization. Others go there primarily because it is their chance to get a hot meal along with some socialization, also get some other information from there. On it, we need to make aging services a permanent part of the state budget. Currently, they've been budgeted on a one-time only basis for the last 6 years at $1.5 million a year. That needs to be increased to at least $3 million onto that, and that just to help keep up with what they have going on right now because cost of groceries are going up. I've talked to quite a few folks that are policemen, firemen, also with search and rescues. Federal funds are drying up, so for them to be able to purchase equipment, to be able to keep things upgraded, and to make sure that their people have the protective equipment, they're struggling to get this taken care of now, even though they're all volunteers for a lot of these services. On it, the state needs to set up some grant programs so that these folks will be able to apply for those and periodically be able to get the upgrading take place. Programs for seniors like Experience Works would be an excellent thing also to help increase. People that are just on Social Security only, the Experience Works gives them enough hours of work to kind of bridge the gap where they need between what Social Security doesn't quite take care of for them and what they have to have from there. Also, any programs that will keep seniors in their homes is the best thing we can do. It's cheaper for the state in the long run to do that because they don't have the people going on to Medicaid to do it. Thank you.
So I guess I just have a problem with the word tsunami, because tsunami by definition means destructive force. And as most of us up here said, one of the top issues facing Montana right now is the economy. And more people coming to Western Montana is not a destructive force. More people coming into Western Montana and Montana is helpful for the economy. It's new dollars. A lot of these baby boomers are coming with businesses that they may not want to retire from. They may want to work until they can't work anymore, not by choice. They may want to work part-time. They're bringing all of those dollars into the economy. They're also volunteering. They're also, out in the community helping. I have 4 siblings that are considered baby boomers, which is crazy to me, but I don't see them giving up anytime soon, and they will be contributing members to try and help build the revenues to be able to pay for all of those services. And we are very lucky to have the great volunteer services that we do in these communities, especially the smaller communities, the volunteer fire department and volunteer neighborhood watch and all of that, and we appreciate all those. But I think as the number of residents goes up and the age of the residents goes up, the revenues also go up. Thank you.
The district you want to represent ranks among the lowest in per capita income. What do you feel can be done on a state level to stimulate the local economy?
Well, I think we need to support the economies that are already here. One of Western Montana's biggest economies right now is tourism. The tourist welcoming center in St. Regis, their budget was just cut to $5,000 for this next year, and they had been getting $20,000. How are they going to stay open, and how are they going to welcome visitors, and how are they going to let them know what's going on around our communities if they can't be there, if there's no funding for it? So I think we certainly need to fund that. We definitely need to make sure that tourists know what to do, know where to go. Where's the best place to get a burger? Oh, let me tell you. Where's the best place to spend my dollars? I can show you. We need to make sure that we can keep the economies that we do have going here healthy. We can also take very practical steps, like I said before, to stimulate our local economies through agriculture. And I can't hammer that home enough. It will eventually save us a lot of money to build our local agricultural needs with the infrastructure to process those foods to get to people in our communities. If we can start there, I think we'd be sitting pretty well. Thank you.
Okay, what can we do to help stimulate the local economy? First thing is we need to acknowledge that government doesn't create jobs that sustain our economy. Small businesses and entrepreneurs do that. So we need government to allow them to do that. We need to remove the unnecessary burdens that government places on people. We need to cut the red tape, cut the taxes. If we do that, and we make it easy for business to start up here and to flourish here, then just think of the businesses that will be able to do that and that will come to this area because we're business friendly. So I think that part of what's going on right now is there's so much government red tape, and they take so much of our hard-earned dollars when we do run a business that it demotivates people to even keep it going. We need to let people keep more of what they earn. Just like when you go out and you get your own firewood, you know, you don't have to give a cut of that to anybody. You earned it. You went out and got it. You paid a permit fee to go out to the forest, a very modest permit fee. But other than that, you get to keep the fruits of your labor. And I'd like to see more of that, more people keeping the fruits of their own labors rather than government wanting to nickel and dime us on everything and take a cut and then do who knows what with that money. We also need to get our natural resource industries revitalized, particularly timber and minerals, but we've also got abundant wildlife, or at least we did before the wolf population got out of control, and we have really excellent recreational opportunities in this area. We need to acknowledge that, and we need to do what we can to make sure that we can utilize those things to the benefit of the people here and help our economy. Best thing that we could probably do is to stop frivolous lawsuits as a state and adopt best management practices for our natural resources. We have very good management practices that we need to adopt so that we can stop those lawsuits and allow Montana's resources to be harvested responsibly once again.
Obviously, as I stated before, helping rebuild the economy of the district from the ground up. And again, not just with natural resource development, but also with manufacturing, also with service industry, also with tourism, as mentioned. But also, too, one of the important things to do would be for those elected officials in this state, on both sides of the aisle, and candidates, to stop the self-defeating talking down that, oh, Montana's not business friendly. If you run a business and you want to sell your business and your products, do you sell them by talking your business down and saying what you have is bad and it's no good? Of course you don't. Okay, and yet time and time again, the message coming out that we hear from a lot of elected officials is that, oh, Montana's not business friendly. We need to get rid of the burden of government. Well, again, if this is the message that goes out there, it's self-defeating. Who's going to want to come here to do business? Versus somebody who's going to constantly be, or elected officials are going to say, you want to know something? This is a great place to do business. And the people here are some of the best in the country. This is a wonderful place to locate your business. You should come here. We're going to work with you. What's going to happen when you hear that attitude out of everybody, Democrat or Republican, in every elected position in the state, in unison doing so? What starts to happen? We take that first step in rebuilding the economy of this district and the state. That's first and foremost, probably the most important thing we can do. Because otherwise, who's going to want to come here? Who's going to want to come here if everybody keeps saying, oh, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad, oh, it's not business friendly, it's not this, it's not that? Very self-defeating. Doesn't do anything good. And again, back to education. What can the state do? They can start directing funds in this area to start improving education through vocational schools, through trades, through education for retraining for those who have lost their jobs in industries that are no longer doing what they used to do, to be able to help create new industries here. Because by educating the people, those people again can create their own businesses. Thank you.
Okay, the state can help with businesses primarily, promoting tourism is a real big thing. At the Governor's Forum today, that was one of the things that they brought up, is that a lot of people relocating businesses to the state generally come here first as visitors, have a very enjoyable experience, go back home, and from there then bring their business out here. So it's important to be able to do that. Funding the visitor centers is already mentioned, and that is a very important thing. Other things, more aggressive advertising of our state to help bring people in. Push our state parks, fishing access sites, the rivers, the streams, fish and game, those types of things should be done. Also at the local level, small grants could be made available to help. For example, Tour 200, which is a local thing in Thompson Falls. The Glacial Lake Trail would be another thing that could also be promoted to help bring people in that have different interests in there. Of course, to be able to have businesses, you have to have an infrastructure. So it's very important to keep like TCEP grants, CTEP, and these others funded, and don't drain that money away anywhere, to make sure it's available for the communities to be able to utilize, to help beautify, to spruce them up, also for water and sewer projects, so that they're ready when business is looking to come in. Also, another thing, of course, is transportation is a big thing. In Sanders County, again, more truck traffic might be coming through there if you got the perma curbs taken care of. That's in their dangerous stretch, the Bad Rock stretch. Also get that fixed. Maybe pressure Idaho to get Highway 200 fixed from the state line to Sandpoint. It's a very restrictive area for large trucks into there. And of course, another thing for resource with DEQ is to make them get efficient on their permitting system, so they can get it done in a very timely manner. And this way it keeps everybody with a distinct time frame that they can work with and don't have to have any uncertainty.
So what I think that can be done, and not just by state officials, but we need to encourage workers and businesses to come to Montana. One of the huge assets that I think is totally underutilized is the organizations that are already in place to help this happen. In this district, we have Kevin Chamberlain, who's the MSU Extension Officer in Superior. We have Marcy Allen, who handles Missoula County and Mineral County with the Bitterroot Economic Development District. And we also have Billy Lee, who's the regional CDC. They all are encouraging companies and businesses to come to Montana. And even more so, they are encouraging the companies that are already here to grow and prosper. I'm not sure if you guys have heard or not, but the pellet mill in Superior burned down last week. And that put 25 people temporarily out of work until they can rebuild. Gordon Hendricks came down last week after the fire and helped get the ball rolling, and I've been working with Andy Poole with the Department of Commerce and also with Evan Barrett with the Governor's Office, trying to get some interim funding before the insurance money comes back so they can get going. Without their help and without the interim funding, the pellet mill could lose all of the sales and contracts that they have in place during this busy time of year, and they may never get them back, and the mill may never be rebuilt. So these state agencies are in place. It's just taking advantage of them and utilizing them and making sure our businesses that are here utilize them, as well as promoting ones to come.
When per capita income is down in a community, it's not just a number, it has real effects. And we felt it more in this district than even across the state. Makes everyday decisions more difficult for folks. Do I fill up my tank all the way because I think prices are going up tomorrow? Or do I fill it up halfway because that's all I can afford? Do I pay my medical co-pays so that I can have my crucial medicine for the next month? Or do I try and go without so I can offer my family a little bit more food or maybe an extra Christmas present? In Mineral County and Sanders and Missoula, we're getting hit a bit harder than the rest of the state. Per capita income at the state levels look at about $23,000, $24,000 right now. Missoula is about 1,000 under that, and Mineral and Sanders counties are hovering at only 19,000, 18,000. Amount of folks below the poverty level is even worse. State level is 14.5%, Missoula is 17.5%, and in Mineral and Sanders County, 1 out of 5 people are below the poverty level. And this makes things difficult. If somebody wants to go, we talk a lot about the jobs in eastern Montana and Wyoming and in South North Dakota, but if you already got a family and you're laid off, you don't have easy access to being able to get out and go to these places to work. And we know some folks who, they leave their families here and they leave their children just so they can afford to buy food for them and pay for their bills. So we need to find solutions that do drive straight into this community. Tourism is a huge one, but it's seasonal. We're all riding on that tourism, especially in St. Regis. It's all about those couple months during the summer. How much can we get through? How well can we use I-90? Timber is important, and I also think agriculture is a big thing. It's a part of our tradition. It's part of how we got forward. And, there's connections here. If we support coal and oil in eastern Montana and get that developed, there's a part of those grants that goes to local agriculture. So I think we need to be able to find solutions to bring the jobs back here to get those incomes up. Thank you.
With the growing federal deficit, we appear to be entering an era in which states cannot look to the federal government, but states themselves must take the leadership on policy initiatives. Where does Montana need to step up and provide leadership? What issues should we focus on, and what should we be doing?
The debt is way out of control, and this is really what shook me to my senses and got me more involved in what's going on in our government, just seeing the irresponsibility that's been taking place, not just one administration. It's been going on for quite a while. It took a long time to build up $16 trillion in debt, and we need leaders in there that will admit that we've made a mistake and start working to correct it. We don't just need change, we need correction. Montana has a lot of discussion right now about what to do with the projected surplus in our budget. There's $412 million, I believe it is, projected surplus in our budget for the upcoming biennium. And nobody's talking about the debt that Montana has. We've got $6.5 billion in debt or deficit. So that $420 million surplus is, you know, a lot of people are arguing about how to spend that and what to do with it, but really what we need to be looking at is what can we do to protect ourselves in the future and not go further into debt, but actually go the other way and start paying down our debt so that we can save taxpayers money on the interest and operate within our means. I mean, we have to do it in our household, so I think our government should have to do it too. Also, something else that I think is really important is that we need to allow people to be more involved in our government. We need to allow people to be able to decide things for themselves, like their health care. And we need people to be allowed to be involved in deciding how we treat our surroundings, our natural resources, our public lands, our communities. If we have strong leaders in the state legislature that will say no when the federal government tries to tell us every little thing that we're supposed to do, and they actually hold the government to their own rules. That's the Constitution. And we have leaders that recognize that it's our responsibility in the state of Montana to govern ourselves. Then I think we can solve a lot of Montana's problems. But we certainly don't need people from the coast of New York, East Coast or California deciding these things for us. We need to let Montanans decide. Thank you.
But the state themselves must take the lead on policy initiatives. Where does Montana need to step up and provide leadership? First of all, those of us who aspire to public office will never be leaders in Helena. We're servants. We're public servants. That's what we'll always be, nothing more. We'll never be leading anything. We'll be working for you all the time. As far as what we can do to step up and provide leadership, do something that has never happened in this country. We're the only Western developed nation, industrialized nation in the Western world that does not have a national industrial or energy policy. Every other one does. We don't. So on a state level, how we take the initiative and leadership? By creating and implementing a decades-long industrial policy for the state that would include the promotion of agriculture, animal husbandry, sound energy development, and tops of on the list of education, advanced education. When I talk about animal husbandry and agriculture, the problems that we face in this state in getting Montana products out throughout the world is not so much on the global end, it is the special interest end in America. Major corporations that have been able to monopolize various aspects, whether it be beef or pork or agricultural, in not seeing Montana products be able to get out of the country to the markets that want to have them. As far as natural resource development goes, sound natural resource development. Remember, right now in Alaska, we spoke about this last week, every resident of the state of Alaska that's lived there for 3 years gets a royalty check from the state government. Why? Because they tax the oil coming out of the ground from the first drop from the starts. Compare that to Montana, an 18-month tax holiday that's costing the state coffers $100 million a year because we haven't got the same sense that they do in Alaska, which is, okay, this natural resource is going to come out of the ground, it's going to come out of the ground for decades, let's tax it and let's use that for the benefit of the people. Because those companies are going to get you money whether we tax them or not, we take advantage of that. The other aspects of it again is education. The idea of setting up a program to build a community college in every county seat in the state to increase education for children and adults alike. Thank you.
Okay, one of the major policies I think the state needs to work on, agree with John on this, is education. Again, with this, you're not going to be able to move forward without having a very educated populace. On it, we need to start right from elementary school and also with preschool programs to be able to get the students ready for this. The federal mandate to come down with the No Child is Left Behind is a bust. It was from the beginning. It was unattainable all the way through. That never should have even been implemented. And with this, Montana, should have gone on its own. The new one that's coming up called Common Core looks like a good possibility that would work, in which you have a basic standard that everybody teaches to get a basic thing there, so that the student is able to move around within the state and still have the same things taught in other places, so that you're not being left behind. One of the problems that's happening now in eastern Montana with the influx of new students there is that approximately 50% of the students coming in are special needs students. So it's putting a real strain on the school systems, because they have to have the extra personnel to be able to help with these folks. And again, it's because they've been bumped from one boom to another, traveled all around, and yet not are way behind what the locals are from there. The two-year colleges need to work very closely with the businesses to find out, what type of workers do they need. They came into Missoula, a business, and just said, well, float this out and see how many welders and pipe fitters that we have here. We'd like to move the specialized business in. They floated it out. It looks like there would be enough to get the business off the ground. But with the Missoula College of Technology, or now the Missoula College, they could then look at this and actually train workers to make sure that they're available for that. Other fabrication plants are looking also in Great Falls. Other places, of course, are Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and after-school programs need to be taken over by the state and run or helped out with the national programs. Those save us a lot of money in the long run by giving students something to do. Thank you.
We are very lucky in Montana to have surplus. And while the federal deficit keeps rising, we need to stay reasonable and stay smart about our spending and be prepared for that rainy day. It's not always going to be this wonderful. So I think we need to, first of all, be very conscious about what we're spending and to not maybe spend all of the surplus and keep some for that rainy day. I agree that education is important, but education isn't for everyone. I am lucky enough to be asked to be on the advisory board for the Big Sky High School Health Academy that they started this year at Big Sky High in Missoula. It's an academy where the students are offered application into the academy. It's part of Big Sky. And for the 4 years, they can go, and all of their curriculum revolves around health sciences. So their English class revolves around maybe making poems about the heart and the history of the heart in history class. And it's amazing. And what the board does is it's a pretty good collaboration of people from Community Medical, St. Pat's, the Missoula College, the University of Montana, and what they're doing is telling the high school teachers what should be taught and what is important to get them that advantage once they get to college, or even if they choose not to go to college, to get that entry-level job in the health sciences. So I know that Missoula County Public Schools, and I'm hoping other schools across the state, are going to continue to do other academies in addition to health sciences. And I think that is super important. And I think it will help put us that step ahead.
One of my favorite things about the federalist system that we have in America is that states are allowed to have divergent policy and have robust, different policies, and the other states can see who's succeeding, who's failing, and then emulate. We have a huge opportunity here in Montana to take initiative on certain issues, especially with a smaller population, a more rural area. We can make bigger changes more quickly to show other states that certain things do work. First of all, and this was already addressed, passing a budget. This is something that we've been working on, taking initiative on, trying to maintain that a surplus can happen through a recession. I know some folks argue what figures we're really looking at, but it's something that's important to Montanans, so we need to continue to strive for as an example.
The second issue that I think we can really take the lead on in this state is transparency. We have a huge opportunity. The head of the unions, the public unions, has said he will work with the legislature on getting a bill through to publicly list employee compensation data. So we can do, through other steps like that, have a transparent, clear government so that folks at home have more access to what their government's doing and how they're spending their money. Third issue, civil liberties issues. 2009, the legislature saw the problems with corporations working with governments to put in traffic light cameras to fine our citizens and get a chunk of that to a corporation, and they banned it. Certain issues like this that we can actually do and get done early to protect the liberties that we hold so dear in the state, then other states can see it work. Washington now, they're going city by city and those are getting banned. It does show and it does go out there. And finally, just as a generalization, we can show that freedom works. We can, let people be more free as long as they aren't harming or hurting another individual or defrauding them. That generally when people are free, things are okay, and we have courts to handle the other harms. But I think that Montana has a huge opportunity to be a leader in policy for the nation. Thank you.
I think we as a state can take a lead in many different areas, but some of the areas I would like us to shine in are education. Education and energy development. And I think that through education, for instance, the College of Technology is going to be requesting funds from the legislature to build a school, build an actual school, not trailers on campus. What I would like to see, in addition to something like that, would be to have satellite classrooms in all of our rural communities. I think we could do that. I think Superior could handle that. I think Frenchtown could handle that. We have students driving all the way from Hagen to go to College of Technology classes. And it would be great to see a satellite program. I would also like to see Montana lead the way in alternative energy development. I'm on the school board in Alberton, as I've mentioned before, and our electric bill in the winter, you guys are gonna choke, is $3,000 a month. Yeah. Well, when I first saw the check, I was like, this has got to be a little bit, this can't be right. But it's an inefficient building, and I think that we need to work on ways I mean, that is a waste. That's an entire teacher's salary right there. We can work on alternative energies to bring down those bills and make our reliance on fossil fuels a lot less.
Okay, this is a blend of two questions that came from the candidates. What is the role of government? When we don't know, we will have a Republican or a Democrat as our governor for the next 4 years, and we don't know what the configuration of our state legislature is going to be. How do you see your ability to work with the opposing party? And can you think of an instance where you would have to vote against your party's platform for something that's happening in your district?
What is the role of government? The question human beings have asked themselves since before Aristotle and the ancient Greeks. Probably the most eloquent declaration of that was by James Madison in Federalist 51. But what is government itself but the greatest of all reflections on human nature? Government, what is the role of government? To reflect us, all of us, regardless of our political ideologies, regardless of our religious beliefs, regardless of whether or not we wear a hat or don't, whether or not we got hair on our heads or not. That's the role of government. And when it comes to the United States and the government that we've taken upon, that was first a republic and now a democracy, it's to reflect all of us, equally so, with the liberty and the equality to reflect all of us, and to know that all of us have an equal say, an equal participation whenever we want in government. That is the role of our government. That's what it is in American democracy. As far as the party goes, well, okay, I can party on because I'm not part of the Democrats or Republicans. So if I don't like something the Republicans say, I go, up yours. I don't have what Democrats don't like, up yours. If I like something the Democrats say, I can say I'm voting with you. If I see something the Republicans do that I like, I can say I'm voting with you. I don't have to worry about partisan politics because I'm not going to be a part of it. Because my main motivation is going to be, again, is to represent everybody in the district. whether they vote for me or not, and in particular the people who don't vote for me, because those are the ones that I need to reach out more than anybody, because those are the ones who probably disagree with me more than anybody, and those are the people I'm going to have the most to learn from as a public employee, the people who disagree with me the most. So that would be the most important thing that I would be doing, was again, to be able to represent everybody and forget about the party politics and listen to everybody in the district, in particular those who did not vote for me and the ones who do not agree with me, because that's where my greatest lessons in what we can do to continue the role of government, which is the reflection of all of us. Thank you.
Now, I believe that the role of government is to work as a collective to provide services to the people that they cannot do themselves as individuals. You know, like building a highway, keeping roads plowed, similar things like that. Other things, of course, is to take care of the less fortunate. There are some folks that you know, are born with disabilities, have other problems involved, and I think you have to have a compassionate government to help take care of those folks. Also, you have to provide for the public safety. So we have to be able to stop things that are harming people and work with that. Other thing is to work for the overall public good onto it and help provide for an orderly society. So we have to have the laws and to be able to have the society work well together. Otherwise you'd have like an anarchy. For public good, parks, these types of facilities are needed and used quite a bit. Also, it needs to protect individual rights. So as long as you are not hurting somebody else, you are not causing problems for somebody else, you should be able to have the freedoms to be able to make your own choices onto that. The government shouldn't be making all of your choices for you. Okay, I've worked with a variety of people, teaching, of course, on the committees, city council, and with it, the biggest thing is you have to be firm in your beliefs, but yet you still have to be flexible enough to be able to reach a compromise. You have to listen to all sides onto that and be able to work with folks to come up with a reasonable solution to a problem. As for the party platform, there's nothing really that I disagree with anything on the party platform, but when it comes to individual laws, I need to hear from my constituents, because if the constituents want me to vote against the law, again, that's what I'll have to do, even though I may not agree with it. But as a representative, you have to do that.
So I think the role of government is to provide safety to the citizens. And I agree with what John said earlier, that we are servants. We are here to serve you. And the role of government is to listen to what the citizens are saying and to do what's in everyone's best interest, or the best interest of the most possible. I am not going to be a party voter. I am the baby of 9, and I have learned that I can pick my battles, and I know when to stand strong and stand my ground, and when I need to compromise. And this last week, I was endorsed by Larry Anderson, who was Denny Reberg's former Western Montana Regional Field Director. And as a Republican, he is endorsing me because we have worked together for many years and knows that I will vote against party lines. I don't care which party it is. I will listen and be the servant that you guys need, and I will trust my heart and trust what's in the best interests of the communities that I am serving.
The role of government is to protect the rights of the individual, and it is also to utilize the powers that the individuals have conferred upon it to provide for the public benefit where the public cannot provide these services themselves. This is a question that you have to keep in the forefront of your mind and not just say at a debate, because a lot of times when you come down to bills, and a lot of them are going to be well-meaning, you're going to have to ask yourself that question again. This may be well-intentioned, but is this the role of government? Are there negative externalities that we haven't considered? Is this what we want government to be in the business of doing? As far as the entire issue with partisanship and working with parties, there's a lot of countries in the world where partisanship is so strong that if the majority loses a vote, government is dissolved. This is not one of them. As long as I can adhere to my constitutional principles and my personal convictions, I'll work with anybody, anywhere, anytime who's willing to talk and not trying to pull me from that core ideals and supporting the constituency. In June, I was a delegate to the Mineral County, or from Mineral County to vote on the party platform. I worked on the party platform. There's parts that I voted against being adopted. I'm swearing on an oath on the Constitution, which I'm adhering to, and I'm going there to represent a group of people, not a platform piece of paper. And as far as the entire issue of being able to have that ability to work across the aisle, I'm not afraid to talk with anybody, whatever party there are. There's Democrats who put my signs up. Some of y'all might know Judy Stang, who has a few Democrat signs, but was happy to put mine up, though she's been in public office and all around the community as a Democrat for a very, very long time. So, thank you.
Well, government is what we let it become. Government is what we create. And we have to remind ourselves that we made this. We built this government, and we need to remind ourselves of that. It's how we decide collectively to take care of ourselves. It's how we decide to spend our collective money on infrastructure, on new roads, on new bridges, on our education system. Government is a collection of ourselves. If I get there, and I hope I do, I'm hoping that there's a pretty even split. That would certainly make my voice much more valuable, because I could be a deciding vote. And so then I would have much more political sway. And so that would be great. That would be great for me if it comes right down the middle, half Democrats, half Republicans, and then a few libertarians thrown in just for good measure. I don't really think that I need to worry about the parties. I am willing to work with everyone, and I've heard that from all of the candidates, and I appreciate that. I really sincerely hope that's true. I don't recall what the last group of legislators were talking about, but I bet they had similar stories. I bet they said, I intend to work with everybody. I want to listen to everybody. And then when you got right down to it, that's not what happened. It was pretty ugly. So I am saying, in all honesty, I intend to work with everybody, and I want to make sure that you hear that. So thank you.
Well, as our founders set it up, the role of government is to protect our freedom and our God-given right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Beyond that is to govern by the consent of the governed. That means don't dictate to us, listen to us. That means don't try to sneak things through when we're not looking. Be upfront and tell us what your plans are, and listen to us and represent our views. Government needs to work within financial constraints and be responsible, and not just kick the can down the road for future generations to be trying to catch up with all this astronomical debt that we've now put onto our future generations. As far as party goes, I'm an American first, and I've made that clear to everybody throughout the course of my campaign. I only recently joined the Republican Party. I've always been fairly independent and tried to look at the candidates and the issues based on what I thought was best and aligned with my values. But when I saw what was going on in our country and the difference right now between the direction that the Democrat Party wants to go and the direction that the Republicans want to go, and I read the platforms, I realized I'm a Republican. But it's America first. If you look at the information that I've got out, my signs, my flyer, the biggest logo on here is a torch of liberty. I believe in freedom a lot more than I believe in elephants and donkeys. So that's why the torch of liberty is the prominent logo on all of my campaign literature. I can and will work with people from all political spectrums. I don't care where the idea comes from. If it's a good idea, I'm going to try to help it move forward. As far as differing with the party platform or the party leadership, I will not vote for anything that I believe is a violation of our constitutional rights. And I won't support any actions that compromise the safety of our food, our water supplies, and our air. Government needs to protect those things for us. I do differ with the party on a few of the initiatives, which we're going to be talking about next as well.
Montanans, question 6, will have 5 hot-button issues on their ballots this November. I'm going to review them briefly. I-166 is an initiative that charges Montana elected and appointed officials, state and federal, with implementing a policy that corporations are not human beings with constitutional rights. LR 120 is a referendum to require parental notification prior to abortion for a minor, providing for judicial waiver of notification, repealing prior statutes, and providing penalties. LR 121 is a referendum to deny certain state services to illegal aliens. Should have my pages separated first. LR 122 is a referendum to prohibit the state or federal government from mandating the purchase of health insurance or imposing penalties for decisions related to purchasing health insurance. And LR or IR 124 puts the 2011 legislature's medical marijuana reform up to a vote of the people. Now, with consideration for the limited time we have available, we'll get 2 minutes. Please speak to and outline your position on the issues. And you can pick one and get intense, or you can escape through it.
Okay, on the issues, I am for, against, onto that. The first one, I agree that corporations are not people. It was in the Montana law, put in because of the Anaconda Company, and should be back into there to take the corporations out. Also, with LR 120, I think what happens here is good intention, but again, through personal experience, I have seen students and young people especially that were so bullied by their parents and so scared of them that they would not ever go to them with anything like this. Also, to get them to go to a judge to get permission, would be unheard of. So I think it goes just a little bit too far. LR 121, I think it opens up the state to too many lawsuits onto that. Also, the costs for the state to start it up and to operate it is too much. This is something that the federal government needs to address. LR 122, that one, I think we need to give the healthcare law a chance to see if it's going to work or not. Currently, our system does not work too well, and it needs to have a change take place. This may not be the perfect change, but at least give it a start and go from there. And IR 124, I'm against that. I think the state made a big mess of the medical marijuana law. Again, from there, some regulation was needed. Yes, the industry agreed with that. You should have to allow a profit into it, but I think that the state needs to tighter controls onto it for the distribution of it and use it just like alcohol. And again, get tax revenue off of that to help to control and regulate it. And it should be licensed, real doctors in Montana, not doctors off the internet or anything like that. So I think this is a very viable possibility.
All right, if Mark can do it, so can I. On I-166, which is the corporate versus citizenship, I don't know anyone, especially during this election cycle, that wants to see more money put into marketing campaigns to promote any or all of the candidates or ballot measures. I think that's a no-brainer. There are some stipulations in there that may need to be reviewed, but the overall purpose of it, I think no one wants to see any more commercials. LR 120 is the notification for abortion of a minor, and that's under 16 years of age. As a mother, I want to know if my child is having any major medical surgery, any surgery at all. I did contact Blue Mountain Clinic, which is the abortion clinic in Missoula, and they assured me that if this does pass, they will have people in place to help with young ladies that come in that may need help through that judicial process to go through the court systems. So I appreciate their willingness to go through that. LR 121 is the referendum to deny state services to illegal aliens. I agree this is a federal issue, but on a state level, my personal feeling is not to punish the children that are coming with the illegal immigrants and figure out a solution there. LR 122 is the referendum to prohibit state or federal government from mandating the purchase of health insurance. The first thing I thought of when the mandate came through was the mandate on auto insurance. The difference is you have a choice whether to purchase a vehicle and drive a vehicle or not. You do not have a choice whether to get health care insurance or not, and I have a problem with that. In addition, the stipulation for employers of 50 employees or more. Within Mineral County, within a few miles of each other, there are 3 businesses that have more than 50 employees that this would directly affect, and I know at least 2 of them have a large problem with this mandate. And IR 124 puts the 2011 legislature medical marijuana reform up to a vote of the people. I think this needs to go to the FDA. I think marijuana needs to go through the whole process to be approved by the FDA. Then patients can get it legally and we can tax it and take advantage of the revenues.
All right, this is rapid fire, so I'm actually going to sit down with my watch right here. Okay, so here we go. First of all, I-166, our corporations people question. I think this is trying to treat a symptom of a disease. The main focus of this is, are we allowing corporations to donate in the political field? I think the actual disease is there's something to be bought in government. As your legislator, I will fight that there's not enough that the state can do. The corporations are going to want to try and buy it off for us to pick winners or losers. On IR 120 about parental notification, I think it streamlines where we have standards with other medical procedures in law with under 16-year-olds. I think it's appropriate for parental notification, and I am somewhat relieved to hear what Christine said about some of these clinics being able to work with girls that might be in dangerous situations to get the judicial waiver. In IR 121 with regarding illegal aliens, if you look at the makeup of Montana, I think this might be a solution in search of a problem. I don't know if we have a very large illegal immigrant issue as some other states do. Enforcement, funding, trying to put this forward is not going to save you money at this moment. At the end of the day, I'm a fiscal hawk. I don't want to spend more of your money than we currently do. On IR 122, mandating purchase of health insurance, I am opposed to mandating that human beings have to purchase services and goods from private companies without choice. I am somewhat questioned, and maybe someone can enlighten me this later, do we have the power to actually rebut that at the state level? I'm not sure if it's federal, so I'm welcome to be enlightened. Finally, I-124, I don't know if we're quite in step with the original initiative that was the will of the people for patients to be able to get care. And you know, there's a lot of various bills that went through the legislature last session on this. I think that it's possible for us, as whoever are your legislators, to go there and draft a thought-out framework 2 years down the road to try and be able to provide what the people voted for in a stable, sustainable way. Thank you.
All right, I don't think I'll be long-winded on this. Okay, I-166, I actually helped gather signatures for this initiative, so it's pretty clear where I stand on that. I do not think corporations are people, and I don't think they should be able to buy our elections. LR 120, Parental Notice of Abortion Act. I think the crafters of this had good intentions, however, I think it can be dangerous. I know a woman who was 19 when she told her father she was pregnant and was going to have a baby. Her father attacked her, her father punched her in the face, and she ran. 15 years later, they've mended those bridges. That girl was me, and I am not going to vote for this initiative. I can't imagine what might have happened to me when I was 16 or 15 and told a parent that I was pregnant. So no, I think it's dangerous, and I encourage you to vote the same way. LR 121 is a referendum to deny certain services to people who are here illegally. And again, I think it was crafted with great intention, but I do have some problems with the wording. The problem being that it would deny illegal immigrants services for victims of crime. If a woman is raped, do we deny her services because she's not from here? I find that callous, and I don't agree with it. So I am not going to support that initiative. LR 122. Although I have some reservations, I won't vote for this initiative. The Affordable Care Act is an attempt to improve our broken healthcare system. The previous system wasn't working, and it's no surprise that the government's first effort at this solution isn't much better, and for some people it's much worse. But I think we should hang and see what happens. The medical marijuana initiative, I don't agree with the new legislation. I think there's a lot of flaws in it. For one, taking the profit out of it. If we can take the profit out of that, let's take the profit out of GlaxoSmithKline, let's take the profit out of Johnson & Johnson, let's take the profit out of Pfizer. They're supplying medicine to us. Heck, it would help us with our Big Sky prescription deficit that we don't have to cover all our Medicaid seniors. So, no, I don't agree with that, and I think the next legislative session can do a lot better. Thanks.
Corporations have many constitutional rights. They can enter contracts, they can incur debt, but they are not allowed to vote in elections, and they're not people. I've signed the initiative. I don't agree corporations are people. Corporations are groups of people with individual rights. So I would vote no on 166. Referendum LR 120. Kids in school have to get permission from their parents to go on a field trip. How can we possibly allow them to go get a surgical procedure like that without parental notification? Parents need to be notified of what their kids are up to, and maybe they should be afraid to tell their parents if they've been promiscuous. Maybe knowing that they have to tell their parents might make them think twice about putting themselves in that situation in the first place. And that's something that kids really need to be taught to think about. Don't get in that situation. So yes, I do believe parental consent should be required for any surgical procedure on a minor. LR 121, referendum to deny state services to illegal aliens. Yes, we should deny taking money from law-abiding citizens in the form of taxes and giving it to illegal citizens. All that does really is give them a reward for breaking a law, sneaking into our country. LR 122, the referendum to prohibit state or federal government from mandating the purchase of health insurance. Absolutely. Nobody knows if Obamacare is going to work. Even the Democrats say it's not perfect and they're not sure about certain aspects of it. Why force it on 300 million people if you don't know if it's even going to work? I mean, the prognosis is not good on this one. So yes, Montana should be able to decide, and we can do better than Obamacare. Okay, I-124, medical marijuana. The people voted in medical marijuana by legislative referendum, and we need to leave that decision with the people. I think I-124 goes too far in taking away people's access to the medicine. Thank you.
One hot button issue and 4 issues that were basically attempts by the Republicans to what amounted to unpassable bills. They couldn't even get their own majority to pass the bills, so they fobbed them off on the electorate to let them decide. I-166, before I registered as John Marshall, the private individual, as a libertarian candidate, I tried to register John Marshall Incorporated because of a human being. State Secretary's office said, sorry, it's a corporation, you can't do that. Wait a minute, Supreme Court says this is a person. They wouldn't allow it. State doesn't allow corporations to run as candidates. I think that issue is settled already. LR 120, a moral issue that has been politicized over the last 4 decades by people looking to increase and or consolidate their political power. The Supreme Court decided it 40 years ago. LR 121, so eloquently said before, a solution looking for a problem. Thank you. That's exactly what I was going to say. LR 122, another referendum created by people, the majority Republicans, who receive $723 per month for their socialized single-payer health care that every person in this room pays for. They get the socialized single-payer health care, But they say, oh, anybody else in this country getting that? It's bad. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Why would you want to elect or re-elect people that support that kind of hypocrisy? Forget it. LR 124, an attempt by the Montana State Legislature to usurp the powers of the judicial branch of our government is put forth in our Constitution. Okay, it is the judicial branch shall what decide what the law is, and here you got the legislator acting as jury and judge in something that should have been decided by the judicial branch. Case in point, if they did not like the law, it was simple enough for a citizen or citizens in the state to sue the government and let the judicial branch of the government decide the constitutionality of that particular law that the voters decided to implement themselves. It is not for the legislature to decide, it is for the judicial branch. They did an end around, and now they're trying to do it again. Thank you.
So we've come to the end of the prepared questions, and we're going to have closing statements.
Well, you get to hear from me to start 3 times tonight. You guys are so lucky. I want to thank Richard and Mrs. Richard and Brooke for organizing this, and Frenchtown High School for hosting it, and also all the candidates for showing up. I think you got some good ideas, and I am also encouraged by the fact that everyone is, at least on the surface, willing to work together. And I truly think that the 6 of us are truly willing to work together to make for a better Montana community and a better Western Montana for sure. I would like to just let you know that I volunteer for the YWCA, I volunteer for Roots, I am a part of the Missoula Business Women's Network, I volunteer for the advisory board for Big Sky High School. I do a lot of volunteer activities that I think are important because I think that they don't get the funding that they necessarily deserve, but I am willing and able to step in and volunteer and help them whenever I can. I am a small business owner who is worried about finding clients, finding employees to work for me, and I want to do something about that. I also want to make sure that my son has a great community to grow up in. His dad grew up in the Frenchtown Valley, and it was a great school district, the 2nd richest school district in the state when he was going to school. And while that may have been when Smurfit was in full operation, I would like to see that back and maybe beat out some of those eastern Montana schools to be some of the better schools in Montana. I am dedicated to listening to you. I am a good listener. I am open to hearing thoughts from both sides, all sides, not just Democrats and Republicans, but libertarians and independents and anyone else that would like to come talk to me. I do have an open door policy, but I also am very passionate about some issues. As you've probably seen tonight, the timber industry is definitely one of my very passionate issues. It keeps a roof over my head and is very important to me. And I would just ask for your vote because I will do the best job that I possibly can for you.
Our time is limited, I'm aware, so I will be brief. First of all, thank you to everybody who helped with this and everyone who came out tonight. And it's not often I feel this in anything with politics, but I'm left feeling quite optimistic after listening to my 5 friends here on the stage and what they had to say on a lot of issues that are important to me tonight. At the end of the day, if you're thinking about Nick and you want to know what is his policy guide, we won't be able to cover everything, every issue. There's hundreds, if not probably thousands of votes that those who are chosen will have to cast in hell, and we could never cover everything, and we can't anticipate everything. So I just want to leave you with my core policy voting principles. First of all, can I keep my oath and vote for it? Is it constitutional? And then second, does it promote and preserve the liberty of the constituents? And third, is this the appropriate role of government? And fourth, does it help our constituency out here in HD 14 and not just other segments of Montana? Thank you very much.
Well, in closing, I would like to say that I'm running because I feel it's the right thing for me to do. I'm running free of party affiliation. I think we need to change our system. And the only way we can change our system of politics is to start voting in other parties. To have the divisiveness of the 2-party system is really not serving us in this area, in this district, in this state, in this nation. And I think that by endorsing, by voting for, by speaking publicly about other candidates, other possibilities, we're opening the doors for even more possibilities. And we won't get this one or that one. I'm pretty sick of the if you're not with us, you're against us mentality in politics, and I think a lot of people I know are. I want you to know that I will stand up for your rights, your reproductive rights, your gun rights, your property rights, your civil rights. Those things are important to me, and I know they're important to many of you. I also would like to make sure that you know I am for public education. I think it's in our Constitution, and we need to make sure that we have the most educated populace around, and I think we can do that. We're up for the challenge. And I want you to know that I want to help the economy, and I'm willing to listen to lots and lots and lots of creative ideas. I think there's a lot of them out there, and I would like to hear them. I would love to hear them. So when you cast your vote, please decide. Do you want to contribute? Do you want to contribute more to the divisiveness of the two-party system, or do you want to try something different? They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Well, I'm giving you an alternative, and I hope you take me up on that.
As a small business owner for the last 20 years, I've experienced the challenges of balancing a budget and managing employees, satisfying customers, and dealing with an awful lot of government red tape, having the government take an awful lot of what I produced. And I think I'll be watching out for the taxpayer and for the small business and the entrepreneur in the legislature, not the special interests, not the big corporations, not the big government, the little guy. I think we need people to stand up for the average little guy. I have a variety of experiences throughout my career. I've worked with rural revitalization strategies, economic development, natural resources, public works, roads, utilities, parks, tourism, and education. I think those experiences will help. I really believe strongly in informing and involving the citizens in their government. It's our government. We need to be better supervisors if we're not happy with what it's doing. Through 27 years in the public and private sector, I've learned to recognize the difference between good government services and useless bureaucratic red tape. Perhaps most importantly, I treasure the peace and the freedom of a rural lifestyle. And I understand and I respect the founding principles that made this country great. We need leaders that will represent us, listen to us, work with us, not try to control us. For me, it's not about power or money. I've already pledged to donate half of my legislative salary back to charitable causes within my Senate district. I really don't want to be a politician, to tell you the truth. I don't want to be considered a politician, but I would like to be a good citizen legislator. Politician isn't a very good word in our house, by the way. But I just realized if we want better government, we need to do what we can wherever we are to make it that way. And for me, this opportunity came. I was encouraged to do it at every turn. And I kept hearing the words over and over of our second president, John Adams, when he was getting his son ready for leadership, and his son didn't want to. His son wanted to get married and go live his life and have a family. And his father said, "Son, if good people don't lead, others will." And those words kept resonating over and over again in my head when I was making the decision whether or not I should do this. My name's Jennifer Fielder. I'm running for Senate District 7. You can remember it like baseball. There's right fielders, there's left fielders. Hopefully there's going to be a senator fielder. Thank you.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. What else can I say? I said it earlier about what James Madison said, a reflection of human nature. How do we want our government to reflect us? And in what way, shape, or form are we going to do it? As being an elected official, you realize that once you get elected to office, what's the most important thing you do? To listen. To listen to the people that you work for. And that is something that I will do. And also to do the best that I can to promote the people and promote the district in Helena, in reminding people not to forget about the people here, not to forget about this district, in all of the needs that it has as far as improving education, as far as improving the economy. That's basically about it. That's all I can say that I can do. I can't make promises I can't keep. So again, thank all of you for participating and supporting American democracy by coming out here and doing what you're doing and what you do every day, which is continue to be Americans and being the government. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming here and for you folks for putting it on. With this, pretty much stated most of my positions throughout the forum here. There's a few things that I haven't brought up. Some of my interests: I love to hunt, fish, trap, hike, camp, kayak, bike, anything dealing with the outdoors. Done a lot of volunteer work within the community through the years, from doing T-ball all the way through to putting on Envirothon and Science Olympiad, also with a lot of the different trail projects that have taken place, and also with other community groups and boards onto it. With this, I'm the longest resident in the state for all of us that are running for the Senate. I have a definite knowledge of the background of a lot of our laws that have taken place and the changes that have happened in the state throughout the whole time that I've been here. And I think it's very important to have that background experience when you're going into this situation. Also with this, I can't make any promises. As one individual going in and as a junior senator, I can't make any big promises about what I will do when I get there, except listen to the folks, listen to the people from the district, and then try to vote their wishes in the legislature for there. Trying to work as a liaison, essentially, between the state and also constituents. And then after legislature is over, the job is just beginning at that point, helping people to go through the maze of the state government to help them with problems that they're having with the bureaucracy. So again, listening is probably the biggest thing, and serving the people themselves is another big thing along with that. It'd be nice if everybody up here would say, how long have they been a resident of the state of Montana, legal residents? Myself, I've lived here 54 years, but again, you have to have 6 months before you're a legal resident, so 53 and a half years I've been a legal resident of the state of Montana. Thank you.